Right now, I'm sure like most of you, you are buried deep in tomatoes, as it is peak tomato season. Today at Witch Hollow, I am going to share my tomato sauce recipe with you and show you how I water bath can it. Let's get started. As I mentioned in my previous video for homemade V8 juice, all of the plum tomatoes came from a local farm named Swiss Stack, and I love getting my plum tomatoes from them. I love getting a lot of produce from them. Their stuff is always so good. So I'm just starting off by giving them a good wash, and then we'll begin cutting them up. In order to make my homemade tomato sauce, the first thing I like to do is cut up some of the plum tomatoes and put them on a baking tray lined with tin foil, and I like to put them under the broiler on low. And I do that because I want the sauce to have a little bit of that roasted flavor to it. I really think it adds something to your spaghetti sauce. As you can see, I don't cut the pieces very small. I kind of just quickly cut them up because they are going to shrink as they are roasting in the oven, and I'm not looking to get every piece of tomato roasted evenly. I just want that nice brown color on them. To the tomatoes, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil, some ground pepper, salt, and a little bit of organic cane sugar. The reason I add the sugar in this process is because I've noticed when you roast them and add the sugar, it changes the flavor a little bit and makes them just a little bit sweeter and a little bit caramelized. Oh, so delicious. I'm going to be placing these under the broiler on low, and I'm going to do it for anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. Just keep an eye on them because you don't want them to burn. That'll wreck the flavor of your sauce. I have my stock pot out, and I'm just going to continue to cut the remainder of my tomatoes to make this sauce. The remaining tomatoes are going directly into the stock pot. And I want to let you know that this batch of sauce consists of a half a bushel of tomatoes, somewhere around 22 pounds or so, might be a little less. It was about 20 minutes, and I decided to take the tomatoes out. They look perfect. This is what you're looking for, so that some of them are just starting to brown. I'm adding my roasted tomatoes directly into my stock pot, and then I'll go back to cutting the remainder of my tomatoes. With the tomatoes all cut up, I'm now going to place my stock pot on the stove, and I'm turning it to medium heat. And I'm just going to keep an eye on it and stir it every few minutes so that the tomatoes don't stick to the bottom of the pot. I thought I would have a glass of my homemade V8 juice while I'm waiting for my mom to arrive. She is coming to help me with canning all of this sauce because behind the scenes this day, we did 2 batches of sauce, and then we also did 2 batches of salsa. So it was a busy day in the kitchen. We spent about 12 hours processing. I had to show everyone this. This is my mom. Her and I are both very short, and I came up with this great idea to use the kitchen step stool so that we could easily stir the tomatoes in the pot because we were both really struggling to do it. This worked really well. The tomatoes are starting to get nice and soft. We cooked it on medium heat for about 25-30 minutes, and they look ready to go through our sieve. So let's get that started. I mentioned this in the V8 juice video, but this is my mom's cone and pestle that she had forever. And it works so good to make the V8 juice, to make tomato sauce, to make ketchup. It's really been beneficial. So I was definitely loving using this. Once we were done grinding, we added 6 to 8 cans, depending on how thick you want your sauce to be, of tomato paste. And then I also added 2 tablespoons of sugar, but I did not add any salt except for what was added to the roasted tomatoes, because I'm actually going to add salt directly into the mason jars when we're prepping them for canning. We ended up cooking the sauce on medium heat for an additional 30 minutes so that all that tomato paste would break up and the sauce would thicken nicely. To each quart jar, we are adding 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then a variety of herbs. So this year I added some dried oregano and dried thyme from our garden. All of my lids and jars were washed ahead of time in hot soapy water, so they are prepped and ready for us to add the sauce. And just to note here that you don't need to use boiling water to sterilize your jars prior to doing canning. As long as you're going to be cooking those jars over 10 minutes in your canner, that will sterilize your jars. We're going to begin by filling our jars with our tomato sauce, and we are hot packing. These jars are still very warm from being washed, and we're putting hot sauce directly into the jars. You're going to leave about an inch of headspace at the top. We are cleaning the rims of our jars with some white vinegar on a paper towel, and then we can add our lid along with our ring. Same rule, finger tight when it comes to canning tomato sauce. You don't want your rings too tight. Since I hot packed these jars, I pre-boiled my water so that my water bath canner is hot and ready for me to just put the hot jars right into the water bath. I'm still going to be placing my jars in very slowly so that I don't have any that crack or break. I'm going to water bath can these quart-sized jars for 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, I am going to turn the heat off and allow them to sit in the pot for an additional 5 minutes before I remove them. Side note, if you are making pint-sized jars of this sauce, you would just change the measurements of the lemon juice to be 1 teaspoon, the salt to be 1/2 teaspoon, then add your herbs, and you would boil those jars for 35 minutes instead of 45. Thank you for joining me at Witch Hollow Homestead today. I hope you found this video helpful and inspiring. If you like making your own homemade tomato sauce and canning it, comment below and let me know what you put in yours. I love to hear the variety of ingredients. Happy homesteading!